What's up, Patreon? Hey, it might be Free Friday for you, but for a Mooncat, it's Fausto Friday, right? That's the Tatuaje cigar. That's some information for Pete Wintercorn, Lynn Wintercorn's husband. I called Pete Lynn's wife last time. Sorry, I was projecting. I'm Kate's wife. Good to be back here. Look, Patreon, we're going to go out on the porch and have a cigar and talk about stuff. We're going to talk about Walter Wolfman Washington and what the funeral was like. That's not something I want to talk about on YouTube, but I'll talk about it with you guys. I processed it in therapy today. I feel better. So let's go over to YouTube and get some let's go over to Patreon and get some shout outs, because man, we got some new patrons this week. I must be doing something right, because y'all were flooding in. All right. So in the background, by the way, we're listening to the San Francisco Jazz Festival from 1992, Salsa Meets Jazz Dance with Concert Machete Ensemble. So anyway, where I got this stuff is archive.org, which I want to tell you guys about. Really quick, before we get into the shout-outs, Google archive.org and then go to the search and search your favorite music. A lot of the blues music that is traditional, meaning or past the point of what do they call it when it's when you can, Kate, what's it called? Public domain. Yes. Public domain. Like, you can use music, like you can download Robert Johnson albums for free now, guys. You don't have to buy them. Son House albums for free. Right after a certain period of time, music just becomes free, right? Now, there's also live performances from your favorite artists, including me. There's hundreds of shows of mine from over the years that people have recorded and put up there, as well as speakers, right? Like, you can hear the entire Martin Luther King Jr. speeches. You can hear entire Malcolm X speeches, right? Or anybody that you're interested in. All of those speeches, historical stuff, it's all available on archive.org. So when I'm looking for music to put behind my videos, right, I just go over to archive.org and just pull up something that I'm sure is not on another record, or that YouTube's not going to flag me for. For example, like this cool, listen to this. We're listening to live music from 1992 from the San Francisco Jazz Festival. I'm digging it. All right. So let's go over to Patreon. All right, so here we go. Thank you very much, Patreon patrons. So if you're just arriving here, I'm going to give you a shout out. Some of you guys I might shout out twice. But here's what's going on. You have now unlocked 271 posts. Now, some of those were already public for everybody, but a lot of them are just for you. So there's a lot of vlogs. What I'm about to do today is vlog. I'm just going to go out on the porch and tell you how I really feel, unedited. I'm not going to try to make myself look good by, clicking out every time I say or if I say something dumb, I'm going to live with it. That's what's going to happen. That's what we do here. I kind of just process stuff, and I let you guys process stuff too. And man, this channel has become, an intricate part of how I get ideas for YouTube. A lot of people wonder, how do you come up with something new every single Friday? Well, I got 9 or 10 or 11 Fridays planned out right ahead of time. I just have to remember them. Sometimes I have to write them down. I come here, I read what you guys say. In other words, you can interact with me. If you go to the messages, the message thing, you can email me right through there, or you can email me directly if it's really serious at jasonricci1@gmail.com. You have access now to my personal email. I will almost always respond. If I don't, give me a gentle nudge and say, "Hey, yo, asshole, respond to my lesson or respond to my question," and I'll eventually get to it. What I don't like is when people get actually really seriously upset. And, sometimes I get busy, sometimes I mean to respond and I forget. But I will always do it if you're cool and if you keep being persistent. Shout outs. All right. Mr. Adrian, upped his pledge. John O. Welcome, Brother John. William Prentice. Hey, William, thank you. That's a very regal name. William Prentice. That sounds like a name we could find on archive.org, delivering some incredible thoughts on like Henry David Thoreau or something. William Prentice reads audio from Henry David Thoreau. Lamar Thomas, also Lamar Thomas. That sounds good too. Welcome, Lamar. Appreciate it. All right, Brother Ben. I'm gonna massacre the name. Shalarike. That sounded Spanish and it looks Polish. I don't know. Ben. Ben. I got that part. Schluricke. How do you say that, Kate? Shurleek. You can write it in the comments. All right, Brother Bill Stone, welcome aboard. You just unlocked a bunch of vlogs and more stuff like this that you probably don't even want to see. But, hey, guess what? There's some lessons here, too, that nobody else gets. And oftentimes the lessons are interwoven with the vlogs, right? So you might have to watch me ramble on, in a self-important manner for a little while before you get to the gem of knowledge, right? And then you might find that there's nothing at all. All right. Brother Ian Bryden, 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 welcome aboard. Did I mention Bill Stone? I think I did, but if I didn't, hey, double Bill Stone. Beautiful Bill Stone, and welcome to Jammin' Jim Larson. My man Nicholas Waddington. Hey, welcome, bro. Welcome back, right? Nicholas had to take off for a little while. It's okay. Hey, that's the other thing. Listen, if you at the end of the month you see this charge on your card and you're like, man, I screwed up giving that guy my money. I don't have time to watch this garbage, right? Hey, man, that's all right. That's all right. You know that you'll come. I'll eventually put out something that'll make you want to come back. All right. For Dangerous, Dave Argonowitz. Agranowitz. Remember when we were kids and the teachers used to massacre our names and we used to laugh at them? Now I feel like they did. Welcome aboard, David. All right, my man Ballast up is pledged. I appreciate that. That's the other thing, too, right? Like, if you got the money, if at the end of the month you see your credit card charged for $1 and you're thinking, geez, Jason was a big part of my month and I got way more money than $1, you can always come back in here and up your pledge for a couple of bucks, right? You can go up and down depending upon how your life is, or you can go away. Now I'm going to put this out there one time, all right? If you don't have any money, like even $1 a month, and at the end of the month that $1 overdraws your bank account, I've said it before, I've been there, all right? I've been there, all right? I get it. You email me, and you say, hey, Jason, is there any good Patreon posts I missed? I will send you the damn link, y'all, right? Right, I will do that, right? It's probably not good business for me to say that, but that's what's up, all right? Hey, yo, Makos. That's like a double super fast shark name. Makos, right? The sharks, the Mako shark is a very ferocious shark and very fast. Oh, this one's going to be hard. Matuz Dolinsky. You know what? I think I got it right. Tell me Matuz. Welcome, brother Matuz. And also Johnny P. upped his pledge. I appreciate it. All right, baby. We are going to go quickly over to the messages and see if there's anything I can answer over there. Just a couple of people. My boy Jason O'Sullivan and I have been having a discussion that I'm not going to share here. This is one of the good things about Patreon, right? You can come over here, right? And you can have discussions with me. I appreciate Jason because he speaks his mind and we don't have to agree on everything. And sometimes we might even agree on more than we know. It's just the way that we communicate it, right? That's a big thing. So we can always learn from that. All right, it's time to go fire up this Fausto for Fausto Friday, Tatuaje on the porch in New Orleans. And let's talk about Walter Wolfman Washington. See you out there. Welcome back, Patreon. All right. Today, we're going to learn how to properly light a cigar. There is no right way. There is a way where you can get the most flavor out of it, I think. So this is what's called toasting it. Uh-oh, I'm about to run out of lighter fluid. That's what happens. All right, so you just want to kind of get the edges. Oh, there we go. I got it. There you go. You just kind of get at the edges. Make sure that burn gets started right. You got to start things right. Delicious. Does help to have a torch lighter. All right, you didn't come here for cigars. Sometimes I'll talk about stuff you didn't come here for. Let's talk about something. Let's talk about Walter. My wife said, "Do you want this?" And I said, "Yes." This was the pin of this beautiful man. They gave these out at the funeral. There was only enough for her to have one. I didn't get to have one. She's let me borrow it for this today. So, I made a post about Walter. I think I shared it here. Maybe I didn't. You know what? If I didn't, I'll share it. I'll share it under this video. It's a huge loss to the city. Why? Because it was such a tremendous gain to have him here for his whole life. I first came here in '95, and all this will be in the post. I'm going to try not to repeat the post. I'm going to try to tell you about what's going on now, not what happened. But you can read the post about how I came to know him and all of that. So, what don't people know? That's what Patreon is for. What don't I feel comfortable putting on YouTube? I'll tell you. So first of all, I knew Walter was sick for a long time. Like almost over a year. Like more than a year. More than just over a year. And I wasn't allowed to talk about it. Now, I'm being honest with you guys. I wasn't in that inner circle of Walter's people that were really close to him. But I worked with him, and I played music with him. Because of that, I was on a need-to-know basis about what was wrong. And what was wrong was cancer. Okay? 2% increase, by the way, in your chances of cancer with cigars. We gotta live. We gotta live, right? We can spend our life living or being afraid of dying. If we spend our life afraid of dying, we may never live. Then again, we can go too far with that. Lord knows I have. Somewhere in the middle. I couldn't talk about it. I wasn't allowed to talk. I was told specifically, don't tell anybody he's sick. His family doesn't want it to know. And then around June of this year, maybe earlier, I was told it could be any day now. And so during that time, I got to know him better a little bit, and then he kind of disappeared because he was too sick. But last year we played Jazz Fest together. You can actually buy a CD of that. The sound, in my opinion, is not so great. I wish they had just had some microphones in the audience like archive.org does. Sounds better like that. The board tape mixes never sound good. If you want to tell how good a band is, listen to their board tape mixes. Speaking of that Talking Blues thing, right? Check out that album, Talking Blues by Bob Marley. That's a board tape mix. It's humbling. You hear that and you realize I'm not as good of a musician as I thought, because those guys sound great on the board tape. Maybe even better. than they would with a room mic. So I don't like keeping secrets. I'm not very good at it. But I was asked to keep that secret, and I did my best to keep it. Kate knew. I wrote that post before I knew Walter was dead. The one below. Here comes a fighter jet. Fighter jet. Some jets flew over Walter's funeral. It was like they were giving us an air salute. I'll get to the funeral. So anyway, I'm not good at keeping secrets, but I did, and it was hard. And here's the most beautiful part, guys. Okay, like I'm going to talk about my own personal experience here. Okay, first of all, if you don't know who Walter Wolfman Washington is, I'm so glad you're here right now, because get ready for a really cool rabbit hole, y'all. Get ready for a cool rabbit hole. Rabbit hole. Rabbit hall. A hall of rabbits. Some of the funkiest, jazziest, best, most beautiful, pure-driven New Orleans blues. I mean, this guy would make Ray Charles nervous if he went on before him. From low to high, what a guitar player. What a singer. Range, vocal range, the sincerity. How tight that band was, too. You think you've heard tight bands. Go listen to Walter, right? It's a real thing, man. The real thing, like himself. Not trying to be anything else. I'm not taking away anything from any other artists, but let me just say that he was as good as any of them, or better. Just because you hadn't heard of somebody, and it doesn't, there's a lot of factors at play in why you might not have heard of somebody. Sometimes it's because they suck. But a lot of times they've made other life choices. They might have had kids. They might have, like Walter, preferred to stay in this incredible city that I live in. And I'm going to get to that. Anyway, the cat's out of the bag. I made the post. I found out he was dead a few hours after I made the post. The post was like a tribute. It read like a eulogy, even though I didn't know he had passed away. It's actually a cigar made by my favorite company, Tatuaje. This one's good, by the way. Called the Wolfman, but it came out in 2013 and can't find them anymore. I think they probably run for over $100 a piece at this point. Maybe I'll track one down for next year. Anniversary. For Walter's birthday. Whenever that is, I should know. Anyway, I'm hurting, but I feel really good. I am very, very grateful to be able to feel today. Now, you might not know what I mean by that, because you're normal, like in a good way. I spent so much time running from how I feel. Whether it was through drugs, or the gym, or sex, or food, or booze, or drugs, I said drugs. Escaping, not wanting to deal with what was going on. That I was not able, I was giving myself really, really high highs and really, really low lows. And I really wasn't able to feel very much of anything. At a certain point, everything became worn out, and burned out, and oversaturated, undersaturated, And, I'm over 3 years sober today, but more importantly than the 3 years, because I've had 12 years before, I had 4 years, more important than that is quality. It's quality. I've had 3 years of really looking at how I want to live my life. And that includes being present for other people. One of the other hard parts, when I'm talking to you guys about how I feel about Walter today, I haven't done that yet. Because I had to be there for people that were with Walter for 34 years. People whose careers are now marked by the passing of Walter Wolfman Washington. In other words, 5 years from now, when you're talking to Tom Fitzpatrick, the saxophone player for Walter, very, very close friend of mine, when you're talking to Tom Fitzpatrick, he'll say, oh yeah, well then when Walter died, this is what happened. It's a milestone. And it's a milestone for this city. And it's scary because he represented the blues in a city full of jazz and funk, traditional jazz, modern jazz, New Orleans funk. There was not a big blues thing here. And don't get me wrong, Walter was full of New Orleans funk, full of New Orleans jazz, full of New Orleans everything. But he was a blues artist, primarily. This cigar is too good to let go out. Excuse me. You don't want to smoke them too fast, but if you go too slow and it runs out and you have to relight it, it might not be the same. When you breathe out your nose, it doesn't mean it goes into your lungs. It's called a retrohale. Nerdy cigar stuff. A milestone. Walter's death was a milestone for the city and for others. And I was able to be there for others. I was able to put my own silly, it's not silly, I was able to put my own stuff aside for the people that needed support more than me. See what happened there? I got scared about it going out and I puffed it too fast. If the cigar wasn't so good, I wouldn't care. Life is good, and I care. And that's what I'm talking about. It feels good to care. It feels good to risk for people. And that means that there's going to be hard times and good times. We talked about that, right? I don't want to get overly philosophical. Let's get to the good part, okay? A couple of my students were nice enough to let me take the day off, or a couple hours off anyway, so that I could get to Walter's funeral, which was announced fairly last minute. It was right down the street from me. It was a couple blocks over there. Irma Thomas, Deacon John, Mem Shannon, others performed at the funeral. It was a beautiful, beautiful service. I sat there in the back on one of the pulpits, thinking to myself, what if I hadn't canceled those lessons? What if I had missed this? It was incredible. It felt incredible. It felt incredible to support people, to be part of a community. Not the community, not nothing either, part of, a small part. The funeral was followed by a second line. If you don't know what a second line is, it has a few different meanings. Okay, second line, first of all, is a type of drum beat. It's like a 2-3 clav. It's a clav. Anyway, Winslow Yerkes will tell you about it. Here we call it a street beat too. Some people think of the most popular clav is the bow diddley. Bop, 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 boom, bop, 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 bop. We got a lot of different ways of playing that beat here. If you heard me do that Auld Lang Syne New Year's thing, that was what was playing in my head was a cloth behind me. Boom, 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 boom. Anyway, so a second line is a drum beat, but it's also a celebration. We have second lines for weddings, and a brass band plays, and everybody dances behind them, and the women come out with umbrellas, and everybody dances, and we close off a street. We get permission from the city, and we close off a street, and we all go down that street, and we have a party. We have parties for everything, but we have parties for when people die. And some people call that a jazz funeral, right? But we just call it a second line. And we had a huge second line for Walter. They closed down the biggest street in the city, Canal Street, and then the second biggest one, pretty much, maybe the third, but Carrollton. We walked 1.5 miles or 2 miles or so, right to where they put him in the mausoleum. And I put my hand on the casket before they sealed it off. And I said, "Thank you for giving me a chance." Walter hated harmonica players, but he liked me. But it took a while. All that's in the story below. Celebration of life. Celebration of life. And we need to be strong for each other and for ourselves. And we need to smile, even when we don't want it, even when it hurts. And it's okay to not smile. And it's okay to be in a position where we're hurting and we can't smile and we ask for help, right? Let me get a harmonica. Oh, shit.
Sure. Playing a great guitar.
Welcome back. A little accident with the phone. I don't know. You know, I do know what I would play right now for Walter. Into the Wilderness, Indian Red. It's a Mardi Gras Indian song. I don't know about the Mardi Gras Indians. They were the black slaves here in New Orleans that escaped slavery and ran into the swamps, into the wilderness. They were willing to leave an uncomfortable situation. It's an understatement. An uncomfortable situation, and put themselves in potentially a more uncomfortable situation so that maybe things could get better. Isn't that what we're all trying to do? The pain of staying the same or the pain of changing. Choose. Pick. Which one? Which one's it going to be? Out there in the wilderness, in the swamp, they encountered the Native Americans, the Indians. By the way, there's no good word for that. If you say Native American, all right, first of all, Amerigo Vespucci was an Italian guy that came over that this is the America's named after him. So he was a colonist. So by calling them the Native Americans, you're still giving credit to somebody else, right? You call them the indigenous people. There you go. But indigenous people of where? Indigenous people of middle continent. We get hung up on things like that, don't we? Don't we? We get hung up on terms. Sometimes you might get hung up on terms like flatted fifth or cross arp or 12th position. It's okay. Anyway, they took that culture, the black folks of New Orleans, eventually when the slaves were freed, came back here and fought the confines of the slavery of poverty with this beautiful homage that they pay tribute to, they pay homage to the Native Americans, or the Indians, or the indigenous peoples, or whatever, you know what I mean, who wanted to help them. And they dress up in these beautiful suits that they hand make every year, and that some of them burn each one at the end of the year. And they work out their differences between neighborhoods amongst themselves, because the police really weren't present, and nobody wanted them to be present either, because they were racist. And not just that, they were corrupt. So the Indians of New Orleans were like patriarchs, and the women were matriarchs that ran social and pleasure clubs where things were handled. And they got this song, it's the most sacred of all the songs, called Indian Rap, for Walter Wolfman Washington. Wasn't perfect. But you know what was perfect? My intention. I could always use more practice, more technique. And you can work on that. And sometimes we can work on that too much. And the intention gets lost. It's like those words I was talking about. Indian, Native American, gay, straight, person who prefers same-sex. It's not what you say, right? It's how we say it, right? We learned that from Richard Pryor. We learned that from Lenny Bruce, from Carlin, even Louis C.K., right? Chappelle. It's funny, stand-up comedians have really become the voice of what's going on. One of the people on here, a friend of mine named Travis, is a student sometimes. He's married to a stand-up comic. I follow her on Instagram. Comedy's tough. It's a tough business. Who that?
See, you damn crazy where you get a license plate from.
Can you get a license plate in there?
Did they use the
I think they did, but I don't think it's there now.
all right, you don't know where to move, John.
Man, I wish. Look, bro, I don't even have a license plate on my car. It's cheaper than the ticket is cheaper than getting the license plate. I know that's wrong, but that's how I bet. But man, I'm sorry I can't help.
Right.
I should know.
Because I told him that Jeff Davidson changed it on to see Fred, well, right?
Yes, you can ask Daryl, right? That the fellow with the big hair, right there. He probably knows. I love my neighborhood. So Daryl, the fellow with the big hair, right? He used to be a Mardi Gras Indian. So I was playing that, and I could hear that he could. I know he could hear that. That made me. All right, good. Well, that was. I don't take it lightly. Like you just don't play that music, right? Like actually, the first time I learned that song from a Mardi Gras Indian, and the first time I ever put it on Instagram, I asked permission beforehand, and I was granted permission. But say I hadn't been given permission, right? I would have played that right now for Walter. Because the intention was correct. The intention was right. Some of you guys out there, I've seen some really beautiful comments, people being very vulnerable, saying, how do I start playing in front of people? I'm scared, or I feel like nothing I do has any value. Okay. So there's a lot of answers, focus on root notes, do less, make sure your tone is good, just get on stage, have a couple of beers, whatever the thing is, right? All those things are good. Good advice, right? Maybe not the beer for some people. For other people, it might be great advice. Satan, from Satan and Adam, used to say, an alcoholic can get a lot of help from the AAA or the liquor store. So he meant AA. He got it wrong, probably intentionally. But that's really true, actually. Either one. But the real answer is just be yourself. You don't have to apologize for not being the best. And just get up there and listen. Listen to the band. Be part of the moment, right? Do the best you can by being part of the moment. Even if you can't play what those guys are playing or you don't know, listen to them. The best way out of yourself, out of your own head, is by opening up your head and yourself to others, to the influence of others. So this really famous harmonica player called me up to tell me how bad my tone was on chords. He said, the way you're playing chords, it sounds tinny. Maybe I was playing them like this. Maybe he thinks this one still sounds tinny. I don't know. What I did, I took a look at it. I told him, I'll see you in 10 years. I said, I'll think about that for 10 years. That's the truth. I will think about that for 10 years or more. Could have got mad. Not gonna lie. I did get a little perturbed. Questioned his motive. Why did he tell me that? Is he jealous? Is he angry? Does he just love me? Which one is he? And then I thought, you know what? I could run with that for ages. I said, let me just take a look at what he said. Let me try to drop my jaw and breathe more naturally and get a bigger tone on this thing. I think he's already helped me. I certainly have a long way to go. Look, breaking habits is hard. Breaking old habits is really, really tough. One of the hardest things for me to do ever in my playing, and I'm still getting it, was getting rid of vibrato. Every time I played a note, it was... Now, if you notice, a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times in my playing now, you'll hear more stuff like this. And then the vibrato happens later. Right. It doesn't matter whether you like that or not, or you think that's a good way to play. The problem for me was I couldn't not do it. Right? Everything was... Couldn't get rid of it. And now it took 7 years of thinking about it to get rid of it. So it could take 10 years, even though I know that if I breathe more naturally and lower my jaw, it could take 10 years to get, if I have a thin tone on chords. Some of that's intentional. I like it to sound like a snare drum. And then some of it maybe is a little better, right? could take 10 years for me to get used to playing them that way because I did so much of, right. But, you know, my mind went to all these places, you know, besides just being defensive and stuff. Went to some legitimate places, right? Like this whole thing with tone. Big tone. Everything needs to be big and fat and giant. And oh my God, he has the biggest tone. What's up with that? What's wrong with just different tones, right? What if everything was giant tones? What if the only noises we had were blue whales and elephants, and there was no little squirrel like there is one over there going, or a little mockingbird or a hummingbird, or making cute little noises. John Coltrane played a soprano sax. You can sit there and tell me that the tone was thin? So what if it was? Did you listen to the music? Where was the intention? What was the intention? Was the note wrong? Maybe. Was the tone thin? Maybe. Did he mean it? Yes. Mean it. Mean it. It doesn't matter what you're playing. Country, blues, jazz. Somebody got mad at free jazz. We had a good discussion about it on YouTube. We don't have to agree on liking everything. It would be a boring, boring world if we did. But we do need to respect each other. We don't have to respect things that are taking away respect from others, but we have to respect why people may do certain things, even if we don't agree with the things that they do, if the intention is good. Over COVID, I watched a lot of my friends turn on each other, had some of them turn on me. I didn't make any posts. I don't do politics. I won't even do that here on Patreon. Won't even do it. Come sit with me on the porch someday right here in New Orleans. Maybe we'll talk about some of that. But I could, I was able to see where different people were coming from on different subjects. And some people got upset with me that I didn't just agree with them, that I didn't pick a side. Truth be told, of course I had my opinion on it, but I didn't like the way people were treating each other over their opinions. That I did not respect. And I called them up not to talk about Biden or Trump or this or that or COVID or vaccines or no vaccines. I called them up to talk about how they were going about talking about it to other people. What have I been saying lately? Love, kindness, patience, tolerance. That's how we talk to people, with those things. Respect. Try to empathize. Where are they coming from? Why? Why are they coming from that place? Sometimes we might even learn something. We might even learn something. We might even change our own mind and say, you know what? That person was right. I do have thin tone on my chords. That's not how you light a cigar. I was wrong. One of my old AA sponsors used to say to me, who do you think, or don't they know who you think you are? This is a long Patreon vlog, but I think one of the best ones. I think one of the best ones. Welcome, new patrons, and thank you. I try to do this twice a month. That's what I try to do. And it's going to be a challenge with Talking Blues because it's going to be similar to this, but it's going to be a little edited, not going to be completely raw like this. And the other thing is, I'm going to make notes during Talking Blues. And there's going to be certain things I'm going to want to say that I'm going to know that I shouldn't say on YouTube. And then I'm going to come over here and we're going to do Behind the Talking Blues over here, which will be on the every time I do one of these patrons vlogs, every time I will address Behind the Talking Blues. So there won't be a separate video Behind the Talking Blues. Otherwise, I would be making way too many videos a week and I wouldn't have any time with Kate or to practice. I'm supposed to be learning a Walter Wolfman Washington song instead of, what's it called? Musing on about Walter Wolfman Washington. I'm supposed to be learning one. But it's Fausto Friday, and you guys are important to me. I'll find the time to learn it right after this is over. So look, here's the melody to Indian Red. Root of 5, or 5 of 5. 1, 4. Sup Raven. 1, 5. So the first thing I did when I learned that song was figure out the root notes. And then arpeggios. That's each note of the chord. So then you can solo all kinds of different ways. Or I could use notes that are in a scale. So I have to find, through learning the arpeggios, every note in the chord, I can then figure out a scale, like a 5-note scale or more, that has 1 or 2 or 3 of every note of one of the notes of every arpeggio in it. So I can play a whole lot more, which is 5 notes. So one of the scales that fits that is major pentatonic. So I'll play Indian Red while staying in the major pentatonic just to see how it sounds. And I'll tell you right now, it sounds good. Again.